My wife lied about losing her job while I paid our mortgage, so I walked away quietly. And she lost everything she ever claimed was hers. I'm a 33-year-old guy, and for the past 2 years, I've been working 90-hour weeks to keep our lives afloat. My job in finance isn't glamorous, it's relentless. Deadlines, client calls that spill into midnight, and constant pressure to perform. I wake up before the sun, skip breakfast most days, and sometimes fall asleep at my desk before even making it home. But I tell myself it's temporary, that every extra hour I grind now is building the life Claire and I dreamed of. Claire. She used to be a marketing executive. Sharp, charming, the kind of woman everyone admired. But a year ago, she claimed to have fallen sick. Nothing serious, she said, just enough that she couldn't work, that she needed me to hold everything together. And I did. I paid the mortgage, the utilities, groceries, all of it. Even picking up little luxuries she liked so she wouldn't feel deprived. I remember one night sitting at the kitchen table surrounded by bills, listening to her coughing in the other room and feeling this swell of love and protectiveness. I've got this, I told myself. She just needs me right now. There were little things that nagged at me. Those texts she'd get late at night that she'd glance at nervously before slipping the phone into her pocket. Calls she'd take in the bathroom and close the door. I asked once, casually, "Everything okay?" She smiled and said, "Yeah, just work stuff," even though she wasn't working. I let it go. I trusted her. I believed in us. Some nights, I'd sit on the balcony, the city lights flickering below, coffee long gone cold. And I'd imagine us 2 years from now, her healthy again, me exhausted but content. Our mortgage finally paid off, our home full of laughter. I told myself that love meant sacrifice, that this was what being a partner was. Little did I know, the foundation I was so proud of was built on secrets I hadn't even seen yet. Days started to blur into each other. I was always running conference calls, client deadlines, running errands for the house, paying bills, making sure Claire had everything she needed without ever thinking twice. I'd glance at her sometimes, curled up on the couch with her laptop whore, so I thought and feel this mix of guilt and pride. I was proud to be the one keeping us afloat, but there was this quiet gnawing in my chest that I couldn't shake. Something didn't feel entirely right. She'd disappear for short periods during the day, claiming doctor appointments or rest, and I'd accept it. "You need the downtime," I'd say, forcing a smile even when my gut tightened. There were nights when I'd wake up, half asleep, to the glow of her phone lighting up her face. A quick text would make her tense, and she'd slide the phone under the pillow. "Just a message from my sister," she'd whisper, her voice calm, casual. But it didn't match the stiffness in her posture. I let it go. I wanted to trust her. I needed to. I was proud of how I handled it all. Cooking dinner when I barely had energy, folding laundry at midnight, and still making time to ask, "Do you need anything else?" She'd smile, thank me, and I'd feel that familiar surge of being needed, of being loved, of being the backbone of someone's world. It was exhausting, sure, but I told myself that love was about sacrifice, about holding the line when things got hard, yet little inconsistencies began slipping in. A receipt left on the counter for a store I didn't recognize. A credit card notification that didn't match the story she'd given me. My rational mind whispered, maybe I'm imagining it. But there was this tug in my gut, a quiet alarm I couldn't silence. I tried to push it aside, thinking maybe I was just tired, stressed, over-analyzing. And yet, as I pored over another stack of bills one evening, sipping lukewarm coffee and staring at the dim kitchen light, I felt the first tiny crack in the foundation of trust I'd built. Something was off. Something I didn't yet understand. The exhaustion was starting to wear on me in ways I didn't even notice at first. My body felt permanently tense, shoulders tight, eyes always heavy. I'd walk into the apartment after a 12-hour day and see Claire sitting there, curled up with her laptop or her phone, and my chest would tighten. I loved her, I really did, but there was this growing feeling that I was alone in carrying the weight of our life. Every bill I paid, every late-night call I answered, every grocery run I did was like I was building a life she didn't have to contribute to. And part of me wanted to scream at her for it, but another part of me couldn't. I still trusted her. I still believed she was sick. "Hey, do you need help with anything today?" I asked one evening as I walked in, dumping my briefcase onto the counter. She glanced up, smiled faintly. "No, I'm okay. Just a little tired." The words didn't sit right with me. Her tone was casual, too casual. I felt that tug in my chest again, like my instinct was warning me, but I brushed it aside. I told myself I was being paranoid. I wanted her to be okay. I wanted her to rest. I wanted to believe in the life we were building together, but the signs kept stacking. Receipts for dinners I didn't remember going to. Uber charges at odd hours. Messages from people whose names she'd never mentioned. Every time I noticed something, my stomach twisted, but I'd shake it off. She's sick. She's tired. I have to be the adult here. One night I caught a glimpse of her laughing softly at a message on her phone. That same guarded look one I'd noticed before. I felt a flicker of doubt that grew into unease, then anxiety. My mind raced with questions I didn't dare voice yet. What if it wasn't just stress or sickness? What if something else was happening? I tried to focus on the bills, on dinner, on work, anything to keep my head down, but I couldn't shake the feeling that the life I thought we were building was already starting to crack. Something was lurking beneath the surface, something I wasn't ready to see. It hit me one Saturday morning. I'd woken early as usual to review some client reports, and the apartment was quiet. Too quiet. I poured coffee, the steam fogging the kitchen window, and noticed a small envelope sticking out from under the couch cushion. I picked it up, heart thudding, and saw it was a statement from a store I didn't recognize. My stomach sank. I tried to convince myself it was nothing, a gift from a friend, maybe something she'd forgotten to tell me about. But then came the pattern I could no longer ignore. A package delivered while I was at work. Online order confirmation for something expensive. A small subscription fee I hadn't signed up for. Every little thing stacked on top of the last, creating a mountain of doubt I couldn't climb over. That night, I tried casually. "Hey, Claire. I noticed a couple of charges I don't recognize. Everything okay?" "Oh, that... just some stuff I ordered for the house," she said, smiling in a way that felt rehearsed. "Nothing to worry about." I nodded, but the knot in my chest tightened. I wanted to trust her. I needed to trust her. I told myself again, she's sick, she's stressed, she's just trying to manage things in her own way. But my mind raced. The receipts, the messages, the secrecy, something was off. I began noticing other things too. She'd leave the room whenever her phone buzzed, whispering on calls, closing apps as soon as I walked in. A friend stopped by one evening and casually mentioned seeing Claire at a cafe during the day. Laughing and chatting, clearly not ill. I froze, my coffee cup trembling in my hands. I wanted to confront her, to demand the truth, but something inside me told me to wait, to watch, to see if the picture would become clearer. And so I did what I always did. I pushed down the fear, swallowed my doubts, and focused on keeping everything else afloat. Yet that night, lying awake on the couch, listening to the city hum outside our window, I realized the first real crack had appeared in the life I thought I had built. Something I trusted implicitly was starting to unravel, and I had no idea how deep it went. I couldn't stop thinking about it. Every spare moment, every quiet second at work or home, my mind replayed the little signs I'd been seeing for months. Receipts, texts, disappearing acts, the way she laughed softly at her phone when she thought I wasn't looking. I tried to rationalize it, tried to tell myself I was just tired, overworked, maybe even paranoid. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. The thought gnawed at me like a persistent itch I couldn't scratch. One evening, after another long day, I decided to start quietly checking. Nothing extremes, just little things, making mental notes, comparing dates, payments, and messages. I wasn't ready to confront her. I just needed clarity. And that's when I saw it, the pattern I had hoped wasn't real. Claire had been receiving payments, orders, and deliveries that didn't fit with her story of being sick. Freelance work she'd forgotten to mention. Shopping trips she said she couldn't handle. Lunches with friends she claimed to avoid. Every inconsistency was like a needle pricking the balloon of trust. I had carefully inflated over the past 2 years. I felt my chest tighten and my stomach twist. How could someone I loved, someone I thought I knew so well, lie about something so fundamental? The betrayal wasn't in the small lies, it was in the audacity to manipulate my care, my hard work, my sacrifices. I tried testing it gently. I saw this online order. I thought you weren't feeling well. How did this happen? I asked one night, keeping my tone calm, controlled. Oh, I just wanted a little treat. Don't worry about it, she said, brushing it off with that same faint, practiced smile. Her casual dismissal felt like a punch to the gut. I could see the truth in her eyes if I looked close enough, but she wouldn't admit it. That night, lying awake on the couch, the city lights blurred through the blinds. I realized it was bigger than I imagined. The life I thought we were building together wasn't just cracking, it was starting to crumble. And I had no idea how far the lies went, or how much I had already been paying for a reality that didn't exist. I should have confronted her right then, but something in me hesitated. Part of me wanted the truth confirmed before I let my anger explode. Part of me still clung to the idea that maybe, somehow I had misunderstood everything. I told myself, just watch. Just observe. One more night, and then I found the undeniable proof. It was a small thing. Really, an email notification she left open on the laptop while she stepped into the kitchen? My stomach dropped as I skimmed the lines. Claire had never lost her job. She quit months ago. The sickness was a fabrication, a carefully constructed story to make me carry everything while she continued living comfortably, even luxuriously, on her own terms. Freelance payments, lunches, dinners out, a tiny vacation she'd claimed to cancel all of it, paid for by me. My head spun. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I felt like I had been punched in the chest. Every late night at work, every extra dollar I had scrimped and saved, every sacrifice I'd made had been exploited. She hadn't just been hiding things. She had been building a parallel life where I was nothing more than her silent provider. When she returned to the living room, laughing softly at a text I hadn't yet seen, I forced myself to stay calm. "Claire, you quit your job months ago?" I asked quietly, trying to keep my voice steady. She blinked, then smiled faintly as if it were a casual fact. "Yeah, I just needed a break," she said. Her tone was light, almost innocent, like she expected me to nod and move on. I didn't move. My mind raced, spinning through every memory, every sacrifice, every time I'd covered for her. The betrayal wasn't just financial, it was emotional. She had lied about her health, about her work, about her reliance on me. I realized in that moment that the life I thought we were building together was an illusion. Every hour I'd spent, every dollar I'd paid had been manipulated. And yet, as anger and hurt surged through me, a strange clarity settled in. I knew I couldn't confront her yet, not with fire, not with shouting, not with tears. I had to wait. I had to watch. Because the moment I walked away quietly, she would finally understand the cost of her lies. After that night, everything changed, but nothing looked different. Claire went about her routine as usual, laughing at her phone, sipping her wine, scrolling through social media, completely oblivious to what I now knew. I watched her carefully, silently, feeling a strange mix of anger, disbelief, and cold determination. Every laugh, every casual comment about tight money or sick days felt like a tiny needle. Reminding me how thoroughly she had deceived me, I started documenting everything quietly. Emails, messages, receipts, online activity. I noted the time, the place, the amount. It wasn't about confrontation yet. It was about control. For the first time in months, I felt like I had some power. I could see the life she had been hiding, the double standard she had created, and I knew the moment would come when she would finally face the consequences. Living under the same roof is unbearable in subtle ways. The air felt heavy, tense, like a storm waiting to break. I'd walk past her, pretending nothing had changed, while inside I seethed. I'd hear her laughter from the living room and feel my chest tighten, heart pounding, a mixture of betrayal and anticipation. The tension between us was invisible, but it filled every corner of the apartment. "Can you grab me a snack?" She'd call from the couch, her tone casual. I'd walk past, nod silently, hands stiff, mind racing. I kept my voice calm, my face neutral, my every interaction measured. I wasn't going to give her any indication that I knew. Not yet. And even as I kept my composure, I felt a quiet shift inside me. The exhaustion, the endless giving, the blind trust, it was all turning into a simmering resolve. I would not confront her. I would not beg her to tell the truth. I would let her live her life exactly as she had built it. And then, when the time was right, I would quietly walk away, leaving her to face the reality she had hidden from me. But for now, I was trapped in the same space with her. Every laugh and every lie echoing louder than ever. It hit me one evening in a way I couldn't ignore. I had been running on autopilot all week, juggling work, bills, and Claire's ever-growing comfort at my expense. That night, I came home exhausted, my head pounding, the city lights outside a blur through the rain-streaked window. I walked into the living room and froze. Claire was sitting there, scrolling her phone, laughing softly, while a glass of wine in her hand caught the light like a little spotlight on everything I had sacrificed. "I can't believe you actually bought this," she said, smirking at a delivery I hadn't known about. "It's perfect. Thanks for covering it." My chest tightened. I wanted to scream, to throw the receipt at her, to shake her until she admitted the truth. But I couldn't. I was exhausted, emotionally raw, and more importantly, painfully aware that every outburst would give her exactly the reaction she wanted, validation that she could manipulate me, control me, and keep living like I didn't exist. I retreated to the balcony, the rain soaking my coat, the city lights reflecting in puddles on the street below. I felt a cold emptiness spread through me. 2 years of 90-hour weeks, 2 years of paying the mortgage, the bills, groceries, every little thing she needed, and she had been lying to me all along. I felt humiliated, stupid, and utterly alone. The betrayal wasn't just deception, it was a complete erasure of the life I thought we shared. I thought about confronting her, about begging for honesty, but even that felt pointless. I realized I had been living in her story, not ours. Every sacrifice, every act of love, had been weaponized against me, and I felt small, invisible, trapped in my own apartment with the woman I loved, who had been lying to me the whole time. The rain fell harder, drumming on the balcony, and I pressed my forehead to the cold metal railing. I felt completely broken, like the life I had built with care and trust had collapsed around me. And yet, somewhere beneath that despair, a quiet, dangerous clarity started to form. After that night on the balcony, something shifted. I realized that wallowing in despair wouldn't change anything. Gay would continue living the same life she had built on lies unless I took control. But taking control didn't mean confrontation yet. I needed a plan, a quiet, deliberate strategy that would make sure she faced the consequences without giving her the satisfaction of seeing me break. I started small. I separated my finances, moved accounts, set up automatic payments for bills she assumed I still controlled. Every transaction, every adjustment, I kept to myself. I wasn't reckless. This wasn't about revenge, yet it was about reclaiming the power she had stolen from me. The realization that I could do this without a single word to her felt strangely liberating, like finally breathing after being underwater for too long. Meanwhile, Claire carried on as if nothing had changed. She made casual remarks about our tight finances while spending freely, flaunting dinners, shopping sprees, and small luxuries I now knew came at my expense. Every laugh, every careless comment, every flicker of entitlement take stung. But it also reminded me why I was doing this carefully, quietly. I wouldn't yell. I wouldn't cry. I would simply walk away on my terms, and yet living under the same roof was exhausting in a new way. Every step I took, every glance at her, every casual question from her was loaded with the knowledge I now carried. I felt like a shadow moving through the apartment, watching, calculating, waiting. The tension was almost palpable, An invisible cord stretched tight between us. One evening, she leaned over and asked, "Are you really okay? You've been distant lately." I smiled faintly, keeping my voice calm. "Yeah, just tired from work," I said, sipping my coffee. She nodded, completely unaware. But inside I felt the first flicker of control since discovering the lies. The game was changing, and when the moment came, she would finally understand the cost of her deceit. The day I decided to leave, everything felt almost ordinary. I woke up, made my coffee, kissed Claire on the cheek without a word, and went about my morning routine. To her, nothing had changed. She laughed at a text from a friend, sipped her tea, and casually mentioned plans for later in the week. She had no idea that every small comfort, every laugh, every casual comment she made was about to collapse under the weight of her own deception. I packed my essentials slowly, deliberately, making sure I didn't leave a trace of anger or confrontation. No notes, no yelling, no begging for her to confess. I wasn't walking out in rage. I was walking out with quiet purpose, leaving her to live in the reality she had constructed at my expense. I wanted her to feel the absence without any theatrics from me. The silence would be the loudest thing she had ever experienced. When I closed the front door, the apartment felt emptier than it ever had before. Every room, every piece of furniture, every photo that had once symbolized our shared life now echoed with the emptiness of my absence. I walked away calmly, deliberately, and for the first time in months, I felt a lightness I hadn't known since I'd discovered the lies. The weight of her manipulation, the constant exhaustion, the betrayal, it was all behind me. I watched from a distance over the next few days as reality hit her. Bills that I had been covering began to accumulate. Payments she had assumed would be automatic weren't. The groceries, the small luxuries she had taken for granted, suddenly became impossible. She called, texted, tried to pull me back in, but I stayed silent, letting her face the consequences of the life she had built on my trust. There was no dramatic confrontation, no screaming, no tears from me. Just quiet, methodical withdrawal, and the slow unraveling of the life she had thought she could manipulate without consequence. And watching that unravel, I realized something profound. Freedom doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's the quietest thing in the world. Watching from a distance was surreal. I didn't interfere, didn't answer her calls, didn't return texts. And slowly, the life she had built on my trust began to crumble. Bills I had been covering piled up. Mortgage payments she thought would magically continue stopped coming. The lights went out briefly one evening. A friendly knock from the neighbor warned of late notices. Her confident, carefree world was cracking. I saw the first real panic when she realized the credit cards she'd been charging with reckless abandon were maxed, and the automatic transfers I had quietly redirected were no longer helping her. I felt a strange mixture of satisfaction and pity. She had been so used to having everything handed to her that she couldn't see the foundation of her life had been me, and when I stepped away, there was nothing left. Then came the calls from friends she had relied on for cover. "Hey, I thought you were sick. I saw you at the cafe yesterday." The truth was emerging, and it was harsh, public, and unavoidable. She tried to spin it, tried to cover it up, tried to manipulate people into believing her lies. But the evidence was undeniable. I didn't gloat. I didn't intervene. I simply watched as reality caught up. I felt no joy in seeing her struggle. I felt justice. Every lie, every manipulation, every sleepless night she had caused me was finally meeting its reflection. I realized that sometimes the most powerful confrontation is the one where you step away and let someone face the consequences of their own choices. And in the silence, I felt the weight of 2 years lift off my shoulders. No arguments, no shouting, no messy confrontations, just quiet, inevitable accountability. Claire had lost the control she thought she had, and for the first time, I was free to rebuild my life on my own terms. It's been a few months since I walked away. The apartment is mine, now mine, to fill with silence, with my own routines. With the small joys I had ignored while carrying a life that wasn't mine alone, I wake up without that constant weight pressing down on my chest. I cook my own meals, pay my bills without guilt. And for the first time in years, I sleep through the night without anxiety clawing at me. I've thought a lot about Claire. About the life we shared, or more accurately, the life she fabricated on top of my sacrifices. There's no satisfaction in revenge, no thrill in watching someone falter. But there is a profound sense of justice in walking away quietly, reclaiming your dignity, and allowing someone else to live with the consequences of their choices. She lost everything she had taken for granted, the comforts, the security, the illusion of control. And she did it all to herself. I've also learned about boundaries, trust, and self-worth. Love isn't supposed to feel like a debt you're constantly paying off. Sacrifice is meaningful when it's mutual, not weaponized. I've realized that the quiet strength isn't in yelling, confronting, or demanding apologies. It's in knowing when to walk away, to preserve your peace, and to let the truth speak for itself. Sometimes, I catch myself glancing at my old apartment, or thinking about the life I almost lost to someone else's deception. And I smile not because she suffered, but because I survived, because I finally feel the freedom I had been missing. I rebuilt myself without drama, without confrontation, without losing my sense of self. The hardest betrayals often come from the people you love most. But the greatest victories aren't about punishment, they're about reclaiming your life. And in that, I am whole again. I walked away quietly. I lost nothing that mattered, and in the silence that followed, I finally found everything I had been searching for.